We're at 7:29.
Is Cindy going to be available? Do you know? Did she say that she'd be?
I didn't hear that she wasn't going to be available, so I was assuming that she was going to be available. It is officially 7:30.
Okay. Well, 7:30, and it is a work day, so let's get the meeting started. Note that everyone is present except for Director Goodner. Hopefully will join in here at some point. And that Director Lang and Director Petersburg are on Zoom. Okay, so we have spent time going through the applicants, the responses to our RFP for architectural services. We've got 5 candidates and we need to narrow that field down. 6, excuse me, 6. We need to narrow the field down to proceed with further interviews to select an ultimate finalist. We'd asked people to respond to, oh, good, Cindy has joined us. Asked people to respond to Dr. Cronin with their thoughts and observations. You want to begin with a summary of?
Yeah, I just have a few things that folks kind of noticed. I think the ones that kind of consistently came up were were Emergent, Envision, SVPA, and Artura. I think there was folks kind of liked a couple people that I talked to like some of the designs, especially the ones they saw out of Envision and Artura. Artura and SVP both kind of mentioned in the process about working with construction managers. I know all of them probably would work with a construction manager. You know, I think when it comes to the design of a building, I think in a nice sort of way, this community appreciates stuff with, you know, a nice aesthetic value. We don't want to just put a box up with windows. And so having design firms that had a little bit more creativity, I think appealed to some folks. So I think that's kind of my broad summary of stuff. I would defer now to the directors to add comments to that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cindy.
One of the things that I was most interested in is how they communicate with the public. And I thought that both Envision and Emergent were strong in that area. So my top choices were Emergent, Envision, and SVPA. You know, I think all 4 that you mentioned, Tim, are really strong. So I'm excited for us to move forward in this process.
Thanks, Cindy.
Yeah, it's interesting interesting because I think you, Tim, kind of shared some of the same views, but I had Emergent, Envision, and SVPA as my top 3 as well, and I did have Artura as my very, very close 4th. SVPA's got a broad level of professionals that they have in house. Again, they work with construction managers and looks like they're really good at helping with the bond process. Envision, you know, 70 employees, community engagement is a really big piece of theirs. Yeah, the bond support sounded like they were really, that was a real big piece of what they did. And they also, they have some replace in place experience, which is pretty close to what, you know, what we're kind of doing. Not exactly in place, but there's a possibility that our school could be very, very close to the school, the John Klein School is currently there. And the vision they had on how they made that work and talked about that, I thought was interesting. You know, we've got a lot of history with Emergent in the past. And I like what they've done for us in the past, but you know, we are starting over. But having some history in the process that we went through before with them and talked about helping it with the bond and stuff, I think also was very good. So.
Ben, what about you?
Meeting. Yeah, those four. Yeah, they all look competent and capable, and the biggest thing is, you know, can they work with Dr. Cronin and other people as well?
Did you have any particular candidates that you would push to the top?
I've heard the hospital had worked with Envision and had good things to say about it. I mean, that's a positive. Other than that, I thought all four were really, really solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, my ranking was not in any particular order, was I guess alphabetical, was Emergent, Envision, and SVPA. I looked at the variety of the buildings and treatments that they provided. I liked what I saw. I've seen several of the schools that they had previously designed and been in them, and comfortable with those three architects.
Okay. Well, as for myself, I would first note that I think we've got a lot of really strong candidates. I think if we only had, one, any of these would be good. Looking across, I think Emergent has to be the top choice simply because of the experience that we have with them, which has been positive. Beyond that, I look at SVPA and think that their qualifications are outstanding and would certainly include them. And then I came down to a tour or Envision, and I guess I don't have a strong sense either way between them. But noting that Envision has been mentioned by several other people, I guess I'll complete that and say that Envision would be my third choice. So looking at,
I think we've got a recommendation.
I think really we've got a lot of votes for Emergent with their experience, and like SVPA has been mentioned by everybody who had multiple candidates, and then Envision.
So I recommend we interview those three firms.
And the idea is, I guess, first, let's look around the room, in the Zoom room. Do those three sound acceptable to everyone?
We're getting a thumbs up from Ben, nodding from Cindy. Brian is still working on the palm trees.
You're muted again, Brian.
You're muted, Brian.
I agree with those three candidates.
Okay. And John?
Yep.
Okay, well, there's our three.
Okay,
And the process that we were discussing was for next Wednesday. I think with three candidates, probably be possible to dedicate a half an hour to each one, do 20 minutes and then 10 minutes for questions or discussion. And then at the end of those three, then we would have our deliberations over a final choice.
and just a clarification, what time do we want to start on Wednesday? And is this a virtual or in person, or is it their option, or how do we want to proceed with that?
Well, I would think we don't want to do it their option because we want to keep the footing equal.
Sure.
So I would suggest that it's either all Zoom or all in person. And perhaps discuss with the candidates what they would prefer. Is if they're all saying, no, we're good doing Zoom, then we'll do Zoom, but if one or two of them say, no, we really want to come up and meet you in person, then I would say fine with that, so I guess,
So offer Zoom.
yeah,
Okay,
Zoom unless at least two of the candidates say, we really want to come up in person.
sounds good. Maybe,
Brian, you're muted yet.
Not very often I'm quiet. You know what? I forced myself into that, so I apologize. I think we ought to just ask them to come in house. I think they're all going to want to. I think it's a very, very expensive project. I've gone through this within the last 5 or 6 months with architects. The ones that did come, which all of them came when we invited them, they had handouts. They brought 2 or 3 people. We got to meet them personally. I think if we just throw it out there and say, you guys tell us what you want, and then we'll figure it out. I think we should invite them in, and I think they're going to want to be here.
Yeah, I certainly would personally prefer to have them here to get a more, in-person impression. And also, I guess if they're saying that they're not willing to drive up here, then what are our meetings going to be like over the course of the project?
Agreed.
Is 6 days enough notice?
What's that, Ben?
Is 6 days enough notice for them?
well, I was just gonna say, I did, after the meeting, sent out a quick email, everybody responded to it, just said, hey, we're gonna decide Thursday morning, please keep, February 22nd on, your radar for potential meetings, so it's not actually 6 days, it might be 8, but it's gonna be a tight turnaround, and that kind of builds into kind of a little something Ron alluded to, like, I guess maybe that shows their ability to commit to the project too.
Yeah. And as I recall, when we were looking at our calendars during the last meeting, we were having a hard time coming up with dates. And it sort of seemed as if we did do the 22nd, we'd probably be pushing back a week, but just from scheduling conflicts, so.
Yeah, and we'd like to keep that date so we could set a public hearing for the budget if we're that far along in the process. So, which we can also do outside of the meeting. It's something to add that we're gonna have one agenda item for that meeting. But like as Ben said, because he's sitting next to me, if we don't do it that Wednesday or the following Wednesday, it might be a Sunday or something, and just that's kind of how it is. So I'll proceed with. Do we have a motion and approval for the final 3?
One more question. You said 20 minutes, Ron, and then with a 10-minute question answer session.
Yeah, I think 20-minute presentation and 10 minutes for that. So, suggest that they shoot for a 20-minute presentation, and then, we'll have 10 minutes to ask questions.
And in my mind, Brian, I was gonna maybe schedule them 40 minutes apart, just to kind of give people time to get a bathroom or in case we go over, but.
Okay. Yeah, I surely wouldn't, I think that's on the shorter end. I'm not saying it's not enough, but I surely wouldn't make any shorter, and I would, if they wanted to do 30 and 10, I would have been happy with that as well.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility too. I do think an hour would be too long, but
absolutely.
Maybe
let's give them 30. What's that, John or Ron?
Say 30 and 15, so we schedule them every 45.
I would wonder if you want to, the 30 and 15 is a good thing. Things tend to spill over a little bit, and giving a little bit of time in between the architects so that they're not, having to spend too much time in the hallway, looking at their competition, I guess.
I think the
30.
15 is, that's quite a bit of time to be just sitting around, I think. But it doesn't make a difference. But I think the 30 makes sense for sure.
Okay. So was that a motion in beginning form there, Brian?
I could make it one. I'll
Please
make a
do.
motion that we interview 3 architects, Emergent, SVPA, and Envision. And we do that on, what was the date?
22nd.
February 22nd. And yeah, I don't think we need to put the time in the time that we'll meet with them in the
No, just that we
in
would
my motion, but yeah,
call the meeting to order at 5:30.
yeah, okay, yep, 5:30 on that particular date with those 3 candidates.
And are we doing here in this boardroom, or do you want a bigger space for it?
I would think this is fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion.
I'll second.
I was,
Okay. I think I heard John's voice first because Cindy's was delayed by about a half a second due to Zoom. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we've got our field, we've got a time set, and now we can all go to work.